All right, we are moving right along to our second set of video notes for Unit 6 and Learning. Now we're going to be looking at operant conditioning. It's really important that you recognize that these two concepts of operant and classical conditioning have some levels of similarities, but we're going to do our best to make sure that you're able to differentiate these. And the best way that I can do that is with this opening slide right here. Classical conditioning involves pairing associations of stimuli, okay? That is what we're looking at when we come to classical conditioning. You learn based upon associating one item or thing or object with another item or thing or object, okay? That's what we mean by that. And you can see that in this image right here. Up here, a sea snail associates a splash of water, which was a neutral stimulus, and becomes a conditioned stimulus because it is paired with a shock to its tail, which is an unconditioned stimulus that evokes a response from it. And so over time, it begins to associate that splash with pain from what it paired with that shock. Operant conditioning, on the other hand, it's different because there is a learned association still there. That is definitely a similarity. But the way that we get to that association is different because the association that you are creating here is between a behavior and its resulting event, okay, whether that event be a reward or a punishment. So that's the key difference here, and you can see that in this representation with the seal. It's supposed to bounce a ball on its nose. When it's successfully able to do that for a certain amount of time, let's say, it's rewarded with a little snack here, and so the response is strengthened because it made the association that if I do this, I get rewarded with that. Okay, so that is the key difference. I can't stress it enough that you should absolutely star this particular part of the notes for yourself. This is the best way for you to be able to remember when you're being presented with multiple different kinds of examples of conditioning, to tell the difference between whether a situation is a classical conditioning example or an operant conditioning example. So really, really, really important that you remember this. All right, so since we've discussed what operant conditioning is in a general sense, now we got to talk about the individuals that furthered research on the subject. The first to discuss is Edward L. Thorndike, E.L. Thorndike, and he establishes what's known as the law of effect. It's something that sounds pretty straightforward for the most part, so it shouldn't be too terribly difficult to follow. The overall argument behind this principle is that a behavior or response is going to be more likely to occur and be learned if there are desirable outcomes with it. Okay, it will be stamped into an organism. So the reason why we know that this is the case is because of Thorndike's research with cats in what's called a puzzle box. You can see what it looks like in here. It's basically just a box that in order to be opened, you have to solve puzzle-like steps to be able to get the mechanism to trigger to open the box. And what he did was he put hungry cats on the inside of that box, and he put food on the outside of the box, thinking that if they had this reward, this desirable result there, it would motivate the cats to solve the puzzle box faster and get out of there much more quickly, okay? So they would become much more efficient in terms of their problem solving and their learning. And gradually, he found this to be true because on succeeding trials, what happened was the wrong responses, okay, the ones that didn't end up opening the puzzle box, those were basically wiped out. They were eliminated almost entirely. And the responses that would get the box to open ended up being kind of stamped in and ingrained into the cat. So that's E.L. Thorndike. His theories are going to end up being facilitated and furthered by B.F. Skinner, another very important contributor to psychology. We've mentioned him as one of the key proponents of behaviorist theory in addition to J.B. Watson. Skinner is going to take that whole concept of the puzzle box and the law of effect and take it a little step further with something called an operant chamber or a Skinner box, okay? And this is, as you can see here, a scenario where a mouse or a rat is going to be placed on the inside of the box, and what happens in this box is the animal is going to be basically researched because the box is connected to computers. These look very ancient to you, but at the point in time that they were created, these were like a very big deal. These computers are going to monitor the responses of the rats or the animals that are in there, the rats, the mice, whatever, to be able to see if animals can be manipulated with reinforcers, specifically food and water. Okay, so if they carry out certain behaviors, they get food or water as a result, so we can accurately and a little bit more scientifically be able to measure that data of whether or not the law of effect could be established. And this enables the researcher to have complete control over the animal's environment and to ensure that the law of effect is truly what it is attempting to assess, which is that behavior will be more likely to occur if there's a desirable outcome. Okay? So, one other thing to discuss within the framework of operant conditioning is shaping. Shaping is operant conditioning done in kind of step-by-step processes. So if you think about a ladder and how you have to go step by step to head up it to be able to get to the top, that's basically what shaping is. It's an operant conditioning procedure that involves reinforcing certain behaviors that you want toward your overall targeted goal. Okay, and you do this by successive approximation. So you just reward tiny steps to get them to the overall desired outcome of what you want them to act on. So you can see down here two pretty crazy examples of this. I'm going to go with the manatee one first. It's possible to shape manatees. I love manatees. They're just so cute and blobby looking. It's possible to get them to be able to discriminate and differentiate between objects, toys, shapes and colors and sizes of those toys by shaping them through reinforcement. Okay? The really interesting one to show you, though, is right here to the left. This is a rat, and it has been operantly conditioned through shaping and reinforcement to be able to sniff out mines in the ground. Bombs in the ground. Okay? So this is pretty interesting stuff that is able to happen. And so shaping is considered to be a very, very successful means of operantly conditioning a person to get them to, or animal, to get them to the desired steps that you want them to be at, so to speak.